go ahead and get started. Can you hear me okay? The mic doesn't seem super loud. So I just want to thank you all for coming tonight to Home Decarbonization 101. I'm glad that you can all join us. My name is Carolyn Burnham, and I am a member of the Batavia Environmental Commission. Checking you in tonight is Kristen Schultz, who's our library representative, and I just want to thank the library once again for partnering with us on our Climate Change at Home series. There will be another program in May on composting, and everybody should have a flyer that tells you a little bit more about that. So I've been talking about home decarbonization for a while, and usually the reaction I get when people say that is they kind of cross their eyes and you're like, what are you talking about? So I'm really happy that we found that CUB was doing a program like that, who can explain it a lot better than I can. So our speaker tonight is Joey Lee, the Carbon-Free Buildings Coordinator at Citizens Utility Board of Illinois. She works around the state building grassroots supports for building decarbonization as an on-the-ground organizer. As a long-time Illinois resident, she enjoys engaging directly with consumers and developing accessible tools and resources to help demystify decarbonization. So let's welcome Joey. Thank you.
Went to sleep. Okay, hello, good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight. Honestly, such a great turnout. Thank you all for coming out, and I'm so excited that people all throughout the state are excited and wanting to learn more about decarbonization. My presentation is titled Home Decarbonization 101, Clean, Healthy, and Affordable Buildings. Before we get started, I want to share a little bit with you about what we'll be talking about tonight. I'm going to start off with a brief introduction about the organization I represent, also called the Citizens Utility Board, or CUB. Then we'll go over what is building decarbonization. I'm sure that might have been a word or a term that you've heard been thrown around. You're not exactly sure what that means, so we'll go over that. And then we'll go over some of the technologies that people are really interested and excited about when it comes to decarbonization. We'll be focusing on heat pumps and electric cooktops. Then I want to share with you a little bit about the tax credits and rebates, which maybe that's why you're here tonight. This is kind of like once in a generation opportunity for funding to get these kinds of technologies into your home at a lower price. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about next steps if you're interested in kind of embarking on this decarbonization journey, what that might look like for you. So the Citizens Utility Board was founded in 1984, and we are a bipartisan nonprofit organization that advocates for affordable and sustainable energy policies here in Illinois. We represent you, utility ratepayers, at the Illinois Commerce Commission, the Illinois General Assembly, and the court systems. We also operate a hotline that helps individuals. So if you ever have a question about your bill, you can give our hotline a call. We have a very skilled hotline team that will help you work through your issues. Especially if you're facing disconnection for whatever reason, please give our hotline a call. And we do these types of events. So we do around 500 of these outreach events a year, which is quite a lot. We also do something called a virtual utility bill clinics. I know sometimes when you open your bill, you're not exactly quite sure what you're looking at, what these graphs or numbers or line items might mean. And if you send us a scan or a picture of your bill to this email, ubc@Citizens Utility Board, we'll pair you up with someone at CUB who will help you walk through your bill and understand what it all might mean. Yeah. So I think when most of us think about burning fossil fuels, we're not necessarily worried or concerned about what's happening inside of our homes, but we are in fact burning fossil fuels inside of our homes, and we spend about 90% of our time indoors. So you can imagine why that might be important to our health and our well-being, and nearly 80% of Illinois residents rely on burning gas for heating. I have a gas furnace at home. I'm assuming that many of you do as well. So what is building decarbonization? kind of a fancy word, but it's very, very simple. It's just ensuring that the energy we use to power and heat our buildings doesn't result in greenhouse gas emissions. This is a big deal, and it's important because the use of fossil fuels in buildings accounts for a pretty big portion of greenhouse gas emissions in the state of Illinois. So one way to lower these emissions is to electrify your home, and that just means switching from appliances that use gas or propane to switching to appliances that use electricity. That also means that to make this an actually more environmentally friendly, a greener option for us, we need to then ensure that the electricity that is reaching our grid is also coming from greener places, right? The 2021 Climate and Equitable Jobs Act in Illinois, which you may have heard of as CJUG, put us on a path to carbon-free power sector by 2045. We have a long way to go to meet those goals. But it's important that as we electrify, that we continue to advocate for cleaner energy sources in our grid. That's going to be really key in kind of our fight against climate change as we kind of make this run towards electrification. So when it comes to decarbonization, there are three main touchstones on why this might make sense for you. One is affordability. Gas prices are incredibly volatile. It's a commodity traded on a global market, so the prices go up and down, as I'm sure that you may have noticed in the last couple of years. And the second is to improve building efficiency. The second main reason to decarbonize is for climate change. You can decrease your fossil fuel consumption and take advantage of increased renewables on the power grid. And the third that I think that I've been hearing a little bit more talk in the community about as well is going to be health. Decarbonization can be really helpful in improving our indoor and outdoor air quality. I know that this may not be specifically relevant here, but I do kind of want you to understand what's going on kind of around the state and around the region and also around the country, is that gas utilities fund their infrastructure through us, right? They are essentially crowdfunding their infrastructure, and when they propose these rate hikes, what they're doing is they're saying, we want to put in new pipes for gas. We want to put in this new infrastructure that as a state, we have these climate goals that we've committed to step away from, right? So we're investing in infrastructure that's going to be obsolete in the next couple of decades. These rate hikes did happen earlier this year. They weren't accepted at their full ask, but they were accepted in some capacity. Some of the utilities are kind of going through retrials right now, so we'll kind of see how that unfolds. And if you're interested in following kind of what CUB is doing and what's happening with the rate hikes, you can definitely check out our website. There's a lot of resources about the rate hike on there as well as a lot of other organizations that are involved in the rate hike work.
Well, what about the electric rates? Don't they get the same type of thing where they put in for rate increases?
Mm-hmm.
ComEd?
They definitely do. ComEd definitely has a standard fee regardless of how much electricity you're using. The gas infrastructure needs to be updated relatively soon if we don't commit to stepping away. So now, like, the electricity infrastructure, it doesn't have such a dire need to be updated now. And I live in Chicago. The People's Gas basic, regardless of how much gas I use, is like $40, $50 a month. That's a really high rate, flat rate to be paying, even if I'm not using anything.
Well, I would say the same thing happens for ComEd. There's a basic cost for that too.
There definitely is, yeah.
Infrastructure, right? So why pick on in your slide just for the gas companies for rate increase? I mean, the rate increases are going to happen in all utility companies.
Mm-hmm.
All of them have infrastructure, all of them have overhead, all of them have labor to support.
Right.
Plus the supply has to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Because we're talking.
I think this is a little unfair that you're picking on the gas company versus all power companies.
I will say.
The Illinois Commerce Commission helped regulate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and CUB is part of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is a little misleading.
I will definitely take that into account.
Okay.
I do want to mention that these are also some of the biggest bonuses and pay raises we've seen for gas executives as well. So that's a big part of the rate hike too. But I understand what you're saying. ComEd is far from perfect.
That's unfair. I think that's what you just said is unfair. Fine, I'm just bringing up what was a slide that came up that I thought was.
Let's give Rachie a chance to finish what she came here to say.
So gas prices are historically more volatile than electric prices. If you are on if you are on NICOR or on People's Gas, those prices are changing month to month, right? So there is just generally more room for volatility as opposed to an electricity provider that changes their price twice a year. I think this is something that we've all felt in real life over the last couple of years. Those gas prices can really change month to month. Another reason that you might consider decarbonizing your home is for climate change. Natural gas is predominantly made out of methane, which is an extremely potent greenhouse gas with 84 times the global warming potential of CO2 over a 20-year time frame. And it leaks at every stage of production and transportation. I was actually at a conference earlier this week where they're retrofitting homes for electrification and doing energy efficiency weatherization for folks who aren't really ready to make that switch over yet. And they were really shocked by the number of water heater pipelines that were leaking inside of homes. So these are things that are happening. I have recently had a gas leak in my home. It's far more common than you think. And emissions from fossil fuels burned in buildings accounts for about 22% of Illinois' carbon emissions. So we're talking a pretty big residential sector. And another one is for cleaner air. So like I said, gas burning appliances emit dangerous air pollution. Here are a lot of pollutants that are entered into our air as we're burning methane in our homes. And 21% of childhood asthma cases in Illinois are attributable to gas stove usage. That's the highest of any state in the nation. That's largely because in a lot of other bigger states, the gas usage is a little bit lower, the percentage of homes that have gas. So definitely something to be concerned about if you have children, but even if you don't have children, just because these studies haven't really been done for adults and we don't know how detrimental they are to adults. Obviously children have smaller lungs, so it's a lot more important, but still something to be concerned and thinking about as we think about decarbonization. We do have the technology to move beyond gas, right? They look almost identical to the technology that you and I are used to. Here are some easy, I wouldn't call them swap outs, but easy replacements that you might consider in your home. A gas furnace to a heat pump, a gas stove to an induction stove, a gas water heater to a heat pump water heater, or a gas clothes dryer to an electric clothes dryer. So these are the four main uses for gas inside of the home. And so this slide just shows you how that transition might be possible.
So do you have the ability to explain anything about heat pumps? Because I thought they weren't amenable to our climate.
I will get to that.
Okay.
Don't you worry. We're going to talk about heat pumps right now. So we're going to be going over the two major types of heat pumps. The first is going to be geothermal, and the second is going to be air source. They both work really similarly, and we actually already have these technologies in our homes. If you have an air conditioner, if you have a refrigerator, that's the same mechanism where instead of generating heat by burning a gas, it's simply moving it from one side to the other. So a geothermal heat pump extracts the heat from the ground. If you go a couple hundred feet into the ground, the temperature is relatively stable year-round, around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a great source of energy for your home to pull from. So these heat pumps work for both heating and cooling. So this shows you kind of how that might work, in both seasons. There are a lot of universities that employ this technology as well. A geothermal is going to be a far more efficient system than an air source heat pump, but they are both really good options. I will say that for geothermal, some things to keep in mind is that the system is completely underground, so you will have to pay for that earthwork of moving that dirt. That's going to be kind of a big expense when you're talking about capital expenditures for this project, but it does require a little bit of yard space because of that. Yeah. Air source heat pumps work the same way. It is basically an air conditioner that has a switch that can switch you from heating to cooling. heat from the outside air is absorbed by the refrigerant in the outdoor unit, versus in the summer, heat from the indoor air is absorbed by the unit, cool air is released from the existing ductwork. So it really just works like a refrigerator or an air conditioning unit. We're quite familiar with those concepts, so I think it can be helpful to kind of wrap your brain around that. Heat pump technology, heat pumps aren't new. They've come a very, very long way. I know that there is a lot of fear, especially in this area, where it gets really cold and we have cold snaps like the one we just had. Can these technologies really accommodate our weather? The short answer is yes. I'll tell you why that's the short answer. This technology does exist. Mitsubishi has an air source heat pump that is prepared to go to, I think it's like -4 degrees Fahrenheit, so extremely cold, but we do get colder than that. So you're saying, well, what happens if the temperature drops below that? Then we would have to look into alternative ways to heat your home, so like a space heater or something like that. This is also why it's super important, if you were to electrify, to make sure that your house is really energy efficient. Cold snaps are just that. They don't last for a long period of time. So if your home is very well insulated, that building envelope is very tight, a couple of hours that your heat pump isn't working is not going to make or break the temperature or the comfort of your home, right? But if your home is leaky, that you're going to be able to feel that. So I always want to stress that energy efficiency, weatherization are going to be the groundwork that you have to do before you can really invest in this kind of technology. I do love to show this slide because it has a page from Life magazine in 1948, as well as 2 examples of around the world. This technology is not new. It's quite new to the conversation that we're having around decarbonization in the United States, but not a new technology at large. I do also want to talk a little bit about induction cooktops. Induction cooktops these are not the old coils that we used to see, right? These are extremely efficient. This slide is just demonstrating how it takes less time using electric induction to heat your water. It will also cool your water much faster. It's also going to be safer for children. Like I said, you're not burning these gases inside of your home. It's not hot to the touch. I would say that one of the downsides that people talk about is you have to use metal cookware, right? It works by using magnets. So the magnet needs something else to latch onto. So if you were to use like stone or clay, that wouldn't work. It's also safer for children. You can't burn yourself on that surface because your hand, as long as your hand doesn't have any metal. And this is something that we have been thinking a lot about at Cub, and I think it's a good segue into the IRA funding that's available. Like I said earlier, big companies, big gas companies subsidize their infrastructure through us, right? So when the people who can afford to electrify start to electrify, who's left kind of sharing that cost burden of those infrastructure changes? And it's going to be the people who can't afford to do so. And that's why these incentives that are rolled out through the IRA or the Inflation Reduction Act target low to moderate income families, right? So to make sure that we aren't leaving people behind in our clean energy transition. So we'll be talking a little bit first about tax credits, and then I'm going to go over into rebates. Tax credits are the ones that are available now. Starting in January 23, and for each year for the next decade, all consumers can claim a tax credit for 30% of the cost of qualified projects up to $1,200 annually. So if you had a larger project, you'd be able to split that up over multiple years over tax credits. It includes. Is there anything we can do about that or not really?
I can't do anything about that, unfortunately. The lights are all off. The ones that I have control over are all off. Can you read a little bit?
I will read them to you. Okay. It's up to $150 for a home energy audit, which I'm going to be telling you about in a little bit, but in short, it's an assessment to identify how efficient and weatherized your home is. Like I said, that's going to be a really important first step if you're planning on getting a heat pump or anything like that. Up to $500 for efficient exterior doors, up to $600 for efficient exterior windows and skylights, and up to $600 for qualifying central AC, electrical panel upgrades, which you might need if your home is older and has older wiring. You might need to upgrade your electrical panel to accommodate all these extra things that you're plugging in. And that $600 also goes for water heaters and water boilers. There's also a one-time $2,000 tax credit for upgrading space or water heaters in addition to this annual tax credit. I will have a slide at the end with a QR code that will have all of this in a document, so you don't have to be writing everything down. This is just to give you an idea. Of course, this is kind of like a once-in-a-generation opportunity to receive this kind of money, but these upgrades are expensive. So this is to help subsidize those, but it's definitely not going to cover the entirety of the cost.
I have a question, Joey. Is this Illinois only, or is this nationwide?
This is federal funding that is going to be rolled out through the state.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it applies to all states?
Yes.
Thank you.
Then we have the electrification rebates, which are to help low and moderate income Illinoisans transition away from natural gas over the next 10 years. We were originally told early this year, I don't think we're really going to see these rebates roll out until summertime. This is, like I said, a large pot of money aimed at the people who need it, and so the state is working very hard to make sure to meet people where they are. I've heard that they're trying to make these point of sale rebates, so you would be able to claim your rebate when you purchase the technology. Not exactly sure how that's going to work, but I've heard that's the plan. So the implementation process is definitely rolling, but I would not expect to see these until the summertime. And these are going to be calculated by the AMI, which is the area median income, which is definitely something you should look up. It's based on a much smaller section than a census tract or a zip code, so you might qualify based on the average median income. So the first cap is going to be 80% of AMI, which will cover the full price of electric appliances up to $14,000. Not a lot of people are going to qualify for that. 80% is quite low. But if you are under 150% of AMI, you can claim a rebate to cover 50% of the cost. Again, the cap is $14,000. I will send over my slides to you. Is that possible? Okay, perfect. And so you'll have this link. But you just type in your address and it will show you the AMI for where you live. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay, perfect. I'll read these to you again. So these are for the rebates, up to $840 for an electric stove, a cooktop, a range, or a clothes dryer, up to $1,600 for insulation, air sealing, and ventilation, which is definitely something you should be taking advantage of if you're thinking of getting a heat pump. Up to $1,750 for a heat pump water heater. Folks have kept in mind that a lot of folks are going to need electrical upgrading and electrical panel upgrades. So there's $2,500 for electrical wiring and $4,000 for electrical panel upgrades. And then there's going to be up to $8,000 for an air source heat pump. We had talked about that. I know that this may not apply to a lot of you, but I do want to say there are extra incentives through your utility provider. So spread the news. If you know someone who's electrifying that's in ComEd territory or in Ameren territory, there are rebates through both of those utilities to help them cover the costs as well. Okay, we cannot talk about decarbonization, we cannot talk about heat pumps without talking about energy efficiency and weatherization. So the cheapest and the cleanest energy is the energy that you don't use, right? So there are studies that show, there is an EPA study that shows that every dollar spent on efficiency will save you $3 in energy costs. So that's a $2 payback. There are things that you can do in your home right now. So one would be to weatherize. Maybe your insulation needs an upgrade, maybe your exterior doors need an upgrade. Energy efficient lighting. Reducing vampire power by unplugging appliances. I recently went on vacation, I unplugged everything. There was a study by the NRDC that showed that as our appliances get smarter, there are clocks running, there are lights running, even when we're not using those appliances, and that can add up to kind of a decent amount of your bill. So definitely something to keep in mind. And utilizing your programmable thermostat. Those thermostats are very smart and will turn on just when you need them, keep you comfortable, but not use extra energy. Okay, perfect. Here are kind of the next steps that if you're ready to embark on this journey that you should be keeping in mind, one is not to wait until your existing heating and cooling system fails. This is a very long process, I will warn you. I talk to a lot of folks that have a hard time navigating this process and kind of overwhelmed by it, and so definitely be prepared for that. You will need to do a little bit of your research. There are a lot of resources and more kind of popping up as we ramp up for these IRA rebates. And also keep in mind that your installer will need to route permitting papers through your municipality or county, so definitely a lot for that. This is not something to be thinking about, oh, my furnace just broke, maybe I should get a heat pump. That's not the way to do it. And the second is to weatherize your home. This is really important when we talk about cost savings, especially. We recommend a professional energy audit, which I'll be talking about right after this, where a technician will come through and walk through your home, identify where you're losing energy in your home, and help you fill those gaps. And then to shop around and find a quality heat pump installer. ComEd, major manufacturers, and professional associations like the Geothermal Alliance of Illinois or the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association. These kind of professional associations maintain lists of contractors that have gone through their training and their requirements, so that's a great place to start when you're looking for a contractor. I will say that this technology is new to all of us, and it's new to the folks that are installing it as well. So making sure that your installer has experience with this technology, knows what they're doing, has experience routing these permits, maybe pushing back against your municipality or county a little bit is going to be really helpful. I will say also that I've heard from folks that it's really if you are set on getting a cold weather heat pump, those are the ones that can accommodate much lower temperatures. It may be something you need to push for. Contractors will sometimes, I think they're more comfortable with gas. That's what they've been doing for a long time. So it's important to kind of know what you're talking about when you're going into those conversations as well. Next, I want to talk about the home energy audit, and I promise this is the end. The home energy audit, also on energy.gov, they refer to it as the home energy assessment, but I've heard it more commonly called the audit, to be honest. If you go on this website, you'll be able to find a database of qualified professionals that will kind of do these assessments. I would expect it to cost around $400 to $500. There is a tax credit available for that, but it won't subsidize the whole cost. Just to give you an idea of kind of why you might be interested in doing this and what you might walk out with if you get this service. Here's an example that I just found on the internet, and it's showing that where you're losing the most energy in your home, right? So this is really important to understand how to prioritize the upgrades you might need to make your home more efficient. So if this was my home, I would know that duct leakage and walls are going to be my priority to make my home more airtight and really work on my building envelope. And like I said, heat pumps are not going to be a very efficient and cost-saving technology if your home is not weatherized and airtight. And it goes into quite a bit of detail. So you'll get pictures and of kind of what's going on inside of your home, as well as I love the section about what to expect. They'll tell you what you should be looking for when you do these upgrades, right? So to make sure that you do them correctly. So it tells you here that all of these things that you should be looking for when you get this replacement done. And then finally, I want to share with you some tips on finding a qualified installer. I think the number one thing I recommend to people is insist on load calculations. That just means that someone is going into your home, it's also called manual J sometimes, and identifying how much energy, how much efficiency you are going to need to properly and comfortably heat your home. So it's making sure that your system is not going to be too big or too small for your home. There's no reason to go bigger if you don't need to, right? There are also some questions that we recommend asking your contractor to make sure that you're comfortable with their professionalism and their competencies, such as how many heat pump systems have you personally designed and installed? Will I need to hire my own electrician to provide electrical work? Will I need an electrical service upgrade to accommodate the heat pump? Do you register the heat pump with the manufacturer? The answer should be yes. Can I get a quote that details the equipment model numbers and itemizes any other parts and accessories for which I'll be charged? That's really important because there will be maintenance needs along the line, and so it's important to know kind of what technology has been put into your home. That is it from me. Thank you so much for listening. I want to leave you with my contact information as well as 3 guides that 2 of which Cub has created, one about electrification, one about heat pumps, and one from another nonprofit organization called Rewriting America that provides a calculator that will help you get a better sense, of course it's an estimate, but a better sense of what rebates you might be eligible for. And that is it from me. Wondering if folks have any questions, concerns, things they want to talk about.
Does the energy audit, the home energy audit, include consideration for EVs?
I do not believe it does, yeah. It's looking really at the ceiling of your home and your building envelope, so should not really be related.
Okay, so then on that part, how about backup power for power failures? Do they do an assessment of what you might need for that?
I don't believe so.
Like, backup battery for a sump pump or something like that?
Yeah. No, I believe it's, here, I'll go back to that slide.
I'll just chime in a little bit here. I think there's a lot of different companies that will do energy audits, and I would contact them and ask them if they do those things. Because different people have different specialties. I've had an energy audit as well when we first moved here, and they did, the blower door test that you hear about. I think they're getting better though, because some of them know all the rebates, and then you can point them. They can go down there and maybe look like, do I have a space for a heat pump, water heater down here? So some of them have that skill set. So I would say when you talk to someone about what you need, these are my biggest concerns. I want to make these changes and I want to get the information to make the right changes first. But this electrical piece is really concerning me, right? And I think it is a concern for everybody. And if anybody has any other questions, I've done a lot of these things. I have a heat pump dryer. I have an induction range. I've been involved in a large-scale geothermal installation where we literally had no property to work with, so they had to drill straight down. We've talked to companies about adding a heat pump in our home, and there's been extra information about that too, that you can have a heat pump added into your furnace system. So the furnace only kicks in, like if you have an older furnace, right, it only kicks in when the heat pump can't do it, because -10 is about the limit for any heat pump system. But with the geothermal, it's better, right, because it's pumping in that water. But the electrical consideration is a good one, because you're going to have to put in 240 for a lot of these. So if you're in an older home, you're going to have to take advantage of some of those panel upgrades.
So I'm sorry, one more question on the heat pump. I saw one of the pictures had like the subfloor piping for the hot water heating of the floor.
It looks like
is that
it was
part of the heat pump system?
So that to me is a part of a heating system. I didn't understand the picture well enough to know. But for geothermal systems, they can go out or they can go down. And so it depends on how much land that you have.
Well, I'm saying that was inside the house, like subfloor
It looked like
heating.
it was heating the floor.
Yeah.
And so that
you
can
don't
be
have
plugged
floors
into
there.
it. And some people have done that, use the water that's filtering through the system to heat your floors. I haven't done that though, so I don't have any
Because I've seen that
personal
done like
experience.
on remodeling of bathrooms and stuff, so they heat the tile.
It was the radiant floor heating where it all went through, and the
Yeah.
cat would lay in the certain spots because he found a coil, because it all ran through the floor.
Right. But I know that some states used to offer a discount if you were fully electrified, and since we have municipal power here, does Batavia do that?
We don't have any plans in the near future for that.
Just a question.
We are trying to encourage the city to, we have an electric vehicle charging station rebate in Batavia of $500, which I don't know of any other municipality that's doing that. So we're working on
What's the percentage
them.
of electric vehicles? I mean, we have a ton, not that high, I'm sure.
I'm sorry?
I don't think we have that many electric
Well,
vehicles.
we're trying, right? We're trying. because that's one of the ways to do it.
And going back to the building envelope, I mean, can you over insulate to the point where your house doesn't have any breathability?
I can answer that again.
Okay, please.
So when you go in, you have an energy audit in, and we've had air sealing done in our house. They actually will calculate the exchange rate of the air in your house, and they make sure that it's safe. But with all the new systems that come in, they do have fresh air intakes to make sure that you're getting some fresh air in the house. So that is part of the calculation for any of the things that they're doing. Anybody else?
I was not aware of an air source heat pump. Is that a better, I guess I'm trying to, I would assume the geothermal is more expensive to install. Which is a better value, geothermal or air?
I can talk about that too, but you can too.
A geothermal system is going to be much more expensive. It will be much more efficient, but the upfront cost, the operating cost will be much lower, but the upfront cost is, I think, what scares people. Yeah, anything to add?
The problem with the air source pump around here, right, is that the air is much colder, right? I mean, you're gonna have it in your house, but the geothermal takes advantage of the ground heat better. So you can put one in here, but I think it's probably more limited by the outdoor temperature than the geothermal one would be.
On the induction water heater, is it the same as the tankless water heater?
No.
Okay.
So a hybrid heat pump water heater operates like the heat pump. It's got refrigerant in it. It's an electric system. There's a tank in it. So it's not a tankless system, but it operates on the same way as the heat pump does. And it does, it's very efficient for heating water if you're going to want a tank. And a lot of plumbers won't even install an electric tankless system here because the water temperature is too cold. So that's what we're looking into doing. They do cost more. I mean, probably $1,500 is the start for one, plus installation. So that's why I saw a $1,750 rebate on it, and I'm like, I'm looking for that, right? I want to get that rebate. But they are a lot more efficient, but they're going to be heating water when you're not using it too. So there is a cost to that.
So if you're interested in doing this and you have questions, is CUB the first place you go?
CUB is a great resource. There's so many people that are in the know at CUB of all the smaller stuff too, that I go there when I'm looking for stuff. That's why I called CUB to do this presentation. I have experience in doing all these individual things, and I wish I had rebates on it when I was doing it. You know, I waited till, you know, our washer went bad, and I'm like, I'm not replacing the dryer until it won't work anymore because I want to do something else, right? But we had to have 240 because we had gas, right? So that's an additional cost, right? So those things are associated with it, but they run so much more efficiently than the other appliances they replaced. Tonight, I was coming here tonight, my daughter made dinner for me. She forgot to boil the water for the pasta. And if I had my old stove with me, I'd probably eaten something different tonight for dinner. But we got the induction range, so I just turned it all the way up. The pot was boiling in a few minutes, got the pasta in, and we ate in plenty of time. So, I mean, there's benefits of it too, right? That it's just so much quicker cooking on that.
It's not as hot.
Pardon?
It's not as hot if you have a lot of things going.
Yeah, it's not, I just set things right next to it on the stove when I'm cooking. There's no worry about a flame or it melting because right next to it is not hot at all. It's just in the heating area. And you could get an induction stove for starting about $1,000. And you've got rebates in there that would cover a lot of the cost of that. They do go a lot higher, but there's really good ones for about $1,000.
Do you need different cookware for induction?
You need one, they have to be magneted on the bottom. So if a magnet doesn't stick on the bottom, it's not gonna work. So a lot of our stoves, cast iron will work. Some of the aluminum ones won't work on it. So that is a consideration. Or for most of you cooks out there, it's a good excuse to buy some nicer cookware. You know, but most of my stuff works. I only had like 2 pans that I couldn't use. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Joey.
Bill, are you still here? Did you want to come up and say your
I'm still here.
2 minutes?
I want to thank the presentation. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, Ralph. First, to be here for like 2 minutes, and I'll be out of your way. Tonight's presentations are things you can do individually in your own home to minimize the use of carbon emissions so that we can do something about climate change. But there's something you can do that's even like way bigger than that, and that's if you grow or you join up with a group of people who are doing things that's focused on minimizing carbon emissions. And for people who live in one of the 3 cities, I don't know if you're all aware of this, but we own a coal-fired power plant. So every time you turn something on, you're using coal power. So our little group is trying to work to minimize rather than maximize the damage our coal plants do. That's probably the shortest way I can put that. So if you're interested in working on a bigger project from home, you don't have to be overly involved. Just get on the email list, check out our newsletters, maybe come to a meeting, see what's going on, and take it from there. Thank you very much.
Are you involved with external lighting at all with this?
No.
Like light pollution and use of
No,
electricity?
no, you're talking about dark sky? There's a dark sky project.
Yeah, okay.
It's a wonderful project.
Okay.
Is there a website or a?
I wish we had one. This is a small group. Do we have a website? We have an email address.
We don't. We're calling ourselves Tri-Cities Clean Energy.
Who are we? Tri-City Clean Energy.
If you will send an email to Tri-Cities Clean Energy, all one word, TRICITIES CLEANENERGY @gmail.com, then we will get back to you and send you information.
Send you a note. We'll have like flyers, brochures, business cards, websites, and the thing the kids do with the Facebook and TikTok and the
We just formed since November, and we are having our 3rd meeting next Wednesday, March 7th, at Geneva Public Library. So you are all welcome, or as many as you who would like to come, you're welcome to join us and see what we're all about. But if you email us at that Gmail address, we will definitely get back in touch with you.
Wednesday.
Did I say? I'm sorry, February 7th. For some reason, I skipped February.
Yes, of course. Who should I send that to?
And let me,
Do you want to write it on the back of this? Because I'm already sending slides here, so I'll remember.
Okay. I'm so glad you joined us today for how to decarbonize your home. We're going to get the slides so that even though you couldn't see everything, I apologize. I don't know what's wrong with the projector. I'm going to talk to our facilities and see if there's something we can do about that. But if you want the slides, I think I have all of your emails when you signed up. If not, stop and see me on the way out and I'll get your name and we'll send you the slides. And I have a survey, and if there are other programs you'd like to see us do, particularly with the Environmental Commission, please write that down, let us know, and we will see what we can do to get some more programming here that you'll enjoy. Thank you so much for coming. Drop your surveys off on the way out, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.